In high school, we hear the usual gossip making its round about a duo who are apparently a match made in heaven. The hype behind their presumed relationship is so large that even the classroom simps have to admit defeat. We finally get to see the famed pair and are introduced to the student council president, Inokami, who is walking confidently down the hall and proclaiming her plans to maintain order in the school, while the Beka simp Kazuki walks behind her, excited that he gets to be so close to a girl. But even if he is a simp, he's at least got hoes and a pretty face. But the same can't be said for Usato, who is such an ugly loser that he got the opening spotlight stolen from him in his own anime. He is just your average high school boy with zero friends and zero hoes, so the only thing of interest that happens to him all day is finding a fallen nest of baby birds. He may be an outcast, but he is at least a kind one, so he helps the birds back into their nest and says they can pay him back later if they want to. But then he realizes that he is talking to a bunch of baby birds and leaves before he gets any weirder. He envies all the other impressive high school students and wishes he could be like them as well, or at least get some friends so he doesn't have to talk to birds all the time. Usato decides it's time for him to go home, but his luck keeps on getting worse as when he goes to his locker, he finds that someone has taken his umbrella. He spots another one over by the wall, and for a moment he thinks about just snagging it and leaving its owner stuck here, just like he is. But then again, so far being kind is the only remarkable trait he has, so he decides that he will just wait out the storm instead. As he takes his seat and accepts his fate of being stuck here, he sighs that it would be so much easier for him here if he could just use magic to just blow the rain away, but things don't work out so conveniently for him. And the rain must have taken his comments personally because several hours later, it is still pouring strong and is even raining slightly more as a little FU to Usato. While he is wondering what he is going to do, he hears a voice come around the corner and finds Inokami is still in school. Normally, everyone would have left school hours ago, so she asks what he is still doing here. But this is the first time he has ever been this close to, let alone had a conversation with a girl, so he is stumbling over his words like an idiot. She manages to piece his half sentences together and realizes that he must be stuck here because he doesn't have an umbrella. However, it is almost the school's lockup time, so the gates are going to be shut soon. Usato takes the hint and decides to just run through the rain, even though it definitely means he will get soaked. But Inokami stops him because it wouldn't be right for the student council president to let a student get himself drenched while she has an umbrella in her hand. But just as Usato was about to get the chance to share an umbrella with Inokami, Kazuki shows up and offers Usato his spare umbrella, which he keeps in his bag for occasions just like this. This move successfully cut Usato and dashed any dreams of physical contact with Inokami, but speaking of which, Inokami asks if Kazuki knows Usato since he is being very friendly with him. They are apparently in the same class, but remember, Usato's friend count is a total of 0, so Kazuki must have really put some effort into learning all his classmates' names. This is the first act of kindness that Usato has ever experienced, so even though he didn't get alone time with Inokami, it seems that he has managed to raise his friend count to 1. He is still a bit awkward, but Kazuki tells him there is no need to be so stuffed around each other since they are classmates, and seeing that Kazuki has become friends with him, Inokami gets in on the action, and they are now a trio of students. It looks like luck is finally on Usato's side as he went from holeless and friendless to just holeless. He gets to walk home with the popular kids, something all the other students would kill to be able to do, so he is finally doing something interesting. On the walk home, Usato talks about how he had thought Kazuki would be more of a ladies' man than he is since he is always seen talking with the girls in class, but the hoes just flock to him. There's nothing he can do about being good looking. Usato also thought Inokami would be far more unapproachable than she actually was since she is revered as a goddess by all the students. If she so much as sneezed in class, her snot would be bottled up and sold on eBay for $1,000. So getting to talk to her like this is still jarring to him. Just to get out of the way, Usato asks if they happen to actually be dating like the rumors say, but they deny it and say they are just around each other a lot, so it is natural that those kind of rumors would be spread. With that cleared up, Inokami asks Usato if he has any plans for the future or anything, but he hadn't really thought about it up till now. Kazuki finds it a little weird since she also asked him that question a while ago as well, but she brushes it off as just curiosity since she has no real hopes for her future. Basically, anything she tries ends in success without much effort, so she lacks any real ambition for her future and doesn't feel like she fits in here. She is literally suffering from success. While Usato has never really tasted success, he definitely knows what it feels like to not fit in, so maybe they are not so different. The three continue to walk when Kazuki and Inokami stops in their tracks because they claim to have just heard something that sounded a lot like church bells just now. They can hearing as clear as day, but Usato doesn't hear anything because he's being sidelined by the isekai forces. He gets closer to them to see if they are alright, and thus it gets pulled into the isekai portal, even though he was never actually meant to be there. The magic circle beneath their feet is about to teleport them, and they have a wide range of reactions from Kazuki's confusion to Inokami's utter excitement, and Usato who gets cut off in the middle of what he was saying. Usato later opens his eyes to find himself in a palace before a king. After the initial shock of the situation, he asks Kazuki what is going on and why they are in such a strange place, but while their brains are still processing, Inokami is practically drooling from excitement as she realizes this is a fantasy and she's loving it. The king notices that they have all finally awoken, so he starts talking but gets cut off by Kazuki, who rightfully wants to know what is going on here. A guard tells Kazuki that he is being impertinent towards the king, but the king is fine with it since he did just basically kidnap a bunch of kids. He apologizes to them but asks that they at least hear him out before they make their judgments on what to do from here. He introduces himself as King Lloyd of the Linger Kingdom, and Inokami is only getting more excited as he talks. He goes on to explain that they were summoned to his kingdom as heroes, and Inokami has a minigasm on the floor from the sheer excitement. The king of demons had laid siege to his kingdom, and with a combined effort, they were successfully able to repel him for now. But since the demon lord is surely strengthening his army right now, they probably won't be so lucky next time. Thus, they decided it might be necessary to take drastic measures and turn to the forbidden spells of ages past that allowed them to summon heroes into this world with the potential to oppose the demon lord. That is a very plausible story, but Kazuki is missing the part where that became his problem. He was just living his life a moment ago, but now he's being asked to fight some demon lord and he's supposed to just be okay with it. He had a good life and a family that he loves, so he wants to be sent back to his world. But the king apologizes again and tells him that the summoning spell only works in one direction, so it isn't possible to send them back right now. This isn't good enough for Kazuki, who gets even angrier. But then he gets reminded that he is surrounded by armed guards who serve the king, so picking a fight here won't get him anywhere. The king gets down from his throne and walks up to three before kneeling before them. He swears that he will find a way to send them back to their original world in the near future. But in the meantime, he asks that they lend him their power to help save his kingdom and its people. Inokami calms her excited for a bit and asks the king why he keeps referring to them as heroes, even though he has no information on them, so he has his assistant Welsi explain. The hero summoning magic circle contains a spell that seeks out individuals who could be potential heroes, which is why they would hear a bell sound before they are summoned. But that just means that while Inokami and Kazuki were the intended target, Usato just got dragged along for the ride and isn't a potential hero. We cut to the magic aptitude evaluation that they will be taking, and Welsi instructs them to place their hand on this magic orb to determine their attribute and its strength. While Inokami is taking her turn, Kazuki asks Usato if he really isn't angry about the way things turned out for him. Not only was he summoned here against his will, it happened by accident too. But luckily for him, the king actually accepts responsibility for his actions, and despite the likelihood that Usato might just be a regular dude, he is still being treated well. Besides, Welsi told him that there is still a chance that he might be able to use magic after all, so he might as well try. Usato is taking this a lot better than Kazuki was expecting, and then there is Inokami, who is still itching to get her grubby little fingers all over that ball. Once the preparations are complete, Inokami places her hand on the crystal ball, and it begins to glow with a brilliant yellow. This is indicative of the thunder element and also reveals that she has a huge mana reserve. Next up is Kazuki, and once he touches it, it begins to glow pure white, and this is one of the more rare abilities because only a few people can wield it. Light magic is the natural weakness against demons, so it will be a powerful asset in a war against them. Last up is Usato, but he doesn't have all that much hope that he'll be powerful. He just wants an ability that will allow him to be useful to his friends. He touches the orb and it begins to glow with a beautiful emerald green color, so he asks Welsi what it means, but she's freaking the hell out and grabs him to go inform the king of what has just happened. She bursts into the throne room to meet the king and he asks what happened. She says Kazuki and Inokami both have great magical aptitude, but the real issue is with Usato's magic. The king doesn't understand what the big deal is and jokes that it wouldn't even be that bad if Usato's magic was the dark element. But Welsi mentions that his aptitude test showed green, and the king's face immediately goes to "oh shit, this is bad." With how they are reacting, Usato wonders if he might be radioactive or something, but it is something much worse than that. The king starts making plans to relocate Usato somewhere else for his own safety. Usato asks if his ability is really that rare, but there is actually someone else who has it, and that is the problem because she is major bad news. And as if on cue, the woman they were talking about bursts into the throne room. Everyone who knows her has a look of fear on their face, but Rose is just being diligent in her service to the king. She was supposed to be on vacation right now, and she decided to come in and check on the status of the summoning ritual. She spots Usato there and asks if he is one of the heroes, but the king, trying to draw her attention elsewhere, says he is just a random kid who got caught up in the summoning ritual by accident. Rose believes him and introduces herself to Usato as the captain of the kingdom's rescue squad. Wellesley then redirects her attention to the crystal ballroom where Inukami and Kazuki are waiting, so Rose begins to leave, much to the relief of the king. He tells Usato that they will figure out what to do with him later, but for now, they will provide him with suitable accommodation. However, Usato still has many questions he would like to be answered since he never learned what kind of magic green is meant to signify. Unfortunately, this was said within earshot of Rose, and upon realizing that his magic is green, she immediately makes a move to kidnap the boy. The king initiates a code red and asks Wellesley to get Usato out of here for his own good, so she forms a magic bubble and has him racing out of the castle at high speed. But Rose is always up for a manhunt and chases after him at amazing speeds. She catches up to the bubble and with a single punch, bursts it along with the entirety of Usato's intestinal tract. From the courtyard, she tells the king that she will be taking Usato, but he doesn't need to worry because she will turn him into a proper healer with her training. The king can do nothing but watch as Usato gets abducted, and the news is later broken to Inukami and Kazuki. They ask if he is in any danger, but it's not like there is a threat of him dying, but there will definitely be psychological damage inflicted. Green signifies healing magic, which is extremely rare for one to possess, so Rose, as a healing magic user herself, took Usato to train him on how to use it. The only problem is that her training methods are a little, well, they violate OSHA regulations, health and safety requirements, and break a few restrictions of the Geneva Convention. Usato learns from Rose that his ability is that of a healer, so she plans to train him to become one, which is why she brought him here. She calls on the boys to meet Usato, and in an instant, he is surrounded by 5 big burly guys and pinned against a wall. All that's missing now is a camera and a white couch. Rose roundhouse kicks one of them and says they shouldn't scare Usato, so she carries on with her explanation. These guys are part of the rescue squad, but they aren't actually healers. There are 2 other healers in the rescue squad, but they are stationed elsewhere right now, so Rose is going to take on his training personally. And to put it lightly, Usato is screwed big time. There wasn't much he could do about the situation, so he chose to just sleep it off and see what happens. And as he awakens the next day, he finds that he is still in this world. The other members of the rescue squad who are currently getting breakfast ready come into the room and tell Usato that he has visitors here to see him. He is surprised to hear that and goes out to find Inumaki and Kazuki have come to check on him. They got worried when they heard that a green-haired lady just grabbed Usato and left, but it seems he actually isn't in any serious danger from his current condition. He tells them that he is fine, but then he remembers that he is still meant to be training under Rose today, and he is still thoroughly screwed because that walking tank of a woman is going to personally train him. He may be alive right now, but there's no telling if he will still be breathing by tomorrow. The others ask if the training is really that bad, and from what he has heard about it, it really is that bad. But he seems oddly calm about his fate since he already resolved himself to complete the training no matter what it does to him. There is nothing better for him to be doing anyway, so he might as well put up with it for now since it will give him a chance to not be so useless in this world. Inumaki finds what he says to be inspiring and makes a promise to do her best with her training as well, and that lifts Usato's spirits a bit as he starts talking about the kind of cool hero training they might do. The 2 later leave the rescue outpost to return to their training for the day, and as they go, Usato thinks those 2 are amazing for adjusting in this world so quickly. If possible, he would like to become someone who can help them in their various battles as heroes, which is why he is going to give his training everything he has got, even if it might kill him. Speaking of the devil, Rose comes out and asks if the heroes have finally left, startling Usato and making him give a very robotic response. Rose tells him to calm down since he is not in prison or anything. He is free to talk to his friends as much as he likes, as long as they are not training, of course. She throws a diary over to Usato and tells him to write down his training regimen or his experience here. And you know is going to be traumatic when they are giving you a diary before you even start training. She tells him they will begin after they are done eating breakfast, so he had better prepare himself. After breakfast, they begin their training, and surprisingly, it wasn't as bad as Usato had thought it would be. All they were doing was learning the basics of magic and how to control it, but for now, she tells him to just focus on the feeling of the magic in his body. Next, she asks him to read this thick-ass book, but he doesn't know how he is meant to do that when it is written in a language he doesn't understand. But she tells him to just take a look at it before he starts complaining. He opens the book and realizes that he can actually understand it despite having never seen this language before, and Rose attributes that to the translation spell that is cast automatically on anyone who gets brought into this world by the hero's summoning. She points to the first page of the book and shows him the location of the kingdom of Linger on the map as well as the location of the demons. And the kingdom is literally right next to the demon's front door, so the next time they decide to go on the attack, Linger is going to be the first to be attacked. She leaves and tells Usato to finish reading that book because it will tell him everything there is to know about this world and the nations in it. This part of the training wasn't so hard, but then day 2 came and he was made to run. He doesn't know how this was meant to help him with his magic, but he ran until his muscles gave out due to soreness, and once that happened, do you think he got to rest? Nope, Rose just slapped the shit out of his legs with healing magic until he could move again, and then told him to keep on running. He's going to run until he drops dead today, and after he dies, she will revive him with healing magic so he can keep running some more. This is the trauma the diary was meant to document. By day 4, Usato was training with the rest of the team out in the fields, and while he has gotten better since day 2, they are still passing him easily, so he has got a long way to go. He continued to run into day 5 and then day 6 until he slipped and fell in the rain. But the hellish training seems to have had some effect because Usato can now see the glow of the healer light coming from his hand. But with all the pain he has had to go through, he can't even be happy about it. On the 7th day, there was still no rest for Usato as he was forced to run till his body gave out yet again, and on top of that, Rose kicked him in the butt with force that can split a tree in half. She tells him that the more he hates her, the harsher she will get, and true to her word, Usato got his butt kicked repeatedly, day after day, until his body was forced to learn how to output healing magic for its own survival. He was able to heal his broken butt, but not only that, he could now heal all the muscle soreness from running all the time on his own. Ever since he learned how to output his healing magic, he has been able to run indefinitely without getting tired, but even then, he is not sure if running laps every day make him strong enough to stand alongside Kazuki and Inumaki. He is keeping his doubts to himself in his diary for now because he already knows Rose would only punish him for thinking that way, and almost as if she can read minds, she yells that Usato has to do 30 more laps before he gets to stop running for the day. Now it's personal. Usato isn't doing this to help his friends anymore, he is just going to get through this training and prove Rose to that he can handle anything that she can throw at him. The next day, Usato had a new task added to his training regimen and had to do over 1,000 push-ups in one go. Usato is starting to get tired after over 800 push-ups have been completed, but torn muscle fibers aren't enough to stop him anymore since he can just heal himself when he gets tired. Rose finally tells him why she is pushing him to such lengths to strengthen his body, and it is because a healer is of no use if they get killed early in the round. He needs to have the physical strength to run away from the enemy if needed. The faster you can run on the battlefield means the faster you can save your allies from the brink of death, so it is very important that you strengthen your body as much as possible to be an effective healer. This time, Rose doesn't yell at him and just tells him to get back to doing his push-ups. The next day, his routine has become running all morning and then late into the evening. He does push-ups. This time, as he is doing his push-ups, he can feel that his body has gotten lighter for some reason, probably because the training is paying off. So to offset his new physical capabilities, Rose added weights to his workout routine for the next day. After that, Usato came into the house to find that his lunch had been stolen by one of the members of the team, and he wasn't going to stand for such injustice, so he was ready to lay the smack down on that guy if he can manage to catch up to him. He was complaining a lot at the beginning of the training, but now he is starting to get used to it more and more, which may not exactly be a good thing. A week later and 21 days since Usato began his training, Kazuki and Inumaki pay him a visit. They are led to his training ground and they are shocked by what they see. Usato is doing push-ups, but these are absurdly difficult push-ups with the added weights of a 10-ton rock and Rose sitting on his back. Usato has started to grow the spine to talk back to Rose whenever she tries to insult his performance, so he ends up saying that she is so light that this much is nothing. Shortly after, he began to regret those words as Rose decided to add another rock on top of the one that was already on his back, nearly flat out squishing Usato, but he still manages to hang on for dear life. He uses his healing magic to repair the broken bones he must have gotten and continues to push through the pain, and that's the kind of thing Rose loves to see. At this rate, she thinks she will be able to take Usato with her onto the battlefield sooner than expected. As Kazuki and Inumaki watch what just happened, Kazuki can't believe how cruel the training he is undergoing is, but all Inumaki sees are those mouth-watering muscles that Usato is now packing. The knight captain that came with them is outraged by what he just witnessed and yells at Rose for trying to break the spirit of a young man. This kind of training would have left any regular man crippled, but even if she could heal him afterwards, the psychological damage wouldn't be going anywhere. However, Rose doesn't see a problem with her methods since Usato seems to be adjusting to it well enough. Plus, she plans to have him be her right-hand man so she can't afford to take it easy on him just because of his sanity. Usato hears this, and this was never part of the agreement. He doesn't remember ever saying he would become her right-hand man or anything. Rose tells Usato that he can take a lunch break and catch up with his friends since she has things to talk about with Sigillus. So Usato, Kazuki, Inumaki, and Princess Celia, who accompany them, all go to have a chat under a tree where Usato learns that Sigillus is the strongest knight in the kingdom. It's currently the one teaching Kazuki and Inumaki how to use a sword in battle, which Usato finds awesome. That aside, he asks who this girl is, so she introduces herself as Princess Celia of the Olinger Kingdom, and realizing that she is the princess, Usato begins to bow and apologize if he was rude to her. Celia doesn't like the princess treatment, so she asks Usato to just treat her like any normal person. She brought a pastry for them all to share together, so they dig in. Kazuki asks Usato if his training is always as bad as it was today, but he actually had it pretty easy today compared to what he normally has to go through. Usato asks what kind of training Kazuki and Inumaki have been up to this entire time. So he recounts that they've been doing sword training with Sigillus, followed by some magic training with Welsi in the afternoon. But their mental health is still taken into consideration while they are going through the training, unlike what Usato has to go through, but he has lost enough brain cells, so he is used to it by now and it's not as bad for him anymore. Usato reaches for another slice of pie and Inumaki can't help herself and gets real down bad for Usato's rock-hard abs. Usato tries to change the subject before Inumaki can any more moist and asks if there was something Kazuki wanted to ask him. Kazuki says it's nothing much, he was just wondering if Usato was having a hard time here, and yes, he definitely is, but is much more manageable than it was when he first got here. He wanted to run away, but Rose was too fast, so he had no chance of escaping, but after doing it for a while and getting used to the new environment, he has started to think of this place as home and somewhat enjoy the training. He may just be being stubborn in the end, but since he is not a hero or anything, he wants to be able to assist them when they go into battle against the demon army. Just then, the guy who ate Usato's food a week ago shows up to bring Usato his lunch, but Usato has still got beef with him. They start trading blows with one another, and Usato will probably win since he can heal himself and the other guy can't. But the others wonder if they should intervene or something. Kazuki thinks it is fine since Usato seems to be having fun, so this is probably him at the happiest he could be. Knowing that Usato is alright, he decides it is time to go back to the castle and continue his training, so they all get up to follow him back. As Inumaki is about to leave, she thinks to herself that there must have been a reason that Usato got pulled into this world with them, so they should all try their hardest to become the best versions of themselves here. That night, after beating up the lunch thief, Usato takes a bath and thinks to himself that he is glad he got to see Inumaki and Kazuki. Although Inumaki kind of creeped him out back there with how she was looking at his body, but then again, he can't blame her because his body is awesome right now. He is faster, stronger, better, and this is all a result of the training he has constantly been doing, pushing his body to its very limits, and then healing it back up with his magic for an incredibly fast growth rate. But even with his unbelievable muscle gains, he doesn't know if it will be enough to save people out on the battlefield. The next day, Usato is told that he will be heading out with Rose for the day. The others know what this means for Usato, but he is still oblivious, so he follows Rose out of the kingdom and into the forest. There, she tells him that he is not allowed to come home until he has killed a grand grizzly bear. And I may be missing a page, but I don't think Usato ever actually learned how to fight, but Rose doesn't seem to care and just tosses him into the forest with no assistance or guidance of any kind. On top of that, Usato doesn't exactly have fly hacks enabled, so unless he does something quick, we're going to have to cut the season short. As he is about to hit the ground, he turns around to face his problems and proclaims he won't let himself die here as he stretches his arms to break the fall. And while he ended up surviving, you know he's got to have at least 2 new elbows after that one. He takes a moment to heal his broken body and comes to terms with the fact that he is now stuck in this forest until he kills a grand grizzly bear like Rose had asked him to. He could still just leave without killing one, but then he would have to deal with Rose, and Usato would much rather handle a bear than her. Besides, it's just a 2-meter tall giant with razor claws. How bad could it be? It is actually pretty bad after all. The bear is much bigger than he had thought it would be, and looking at it up close is terrifying, so he backs out and uses the Joestar family's secret technique. He is sure that with all of his running practice, he should be able to outrun the bear with ease, but the bear never skipped leg day either. Seeing that he won't be able to outrun the bear anytime soon, he thinks back to all the hellish training he survived and grew enough confidence to turn around and tell the bear, "Come at me, bro." However, this was never a fair fight to begin with, as the bear had 2 others there to jump Usato's ass. He turned back around and kept running like his life depended on it. As he ran, he heard the sound of a rushing waterfall, so decides to use that to his advantage and escape the bears by leaping off a cliff and into the water. The bears stand and watch to see if he comes back up, But after losing interest, they all walk off, leaving Usato alive for another day. Meanwhile, Usato makes it out of the river and hangs his clothes up to dry as he finally takes a look at what he has in his bag, and he sees that he was given nothing but the bare essentials for survival. Some water, a knife, and some bread that can also substitute for a weapon to deliver blunt force trauma. He still doesn't know how he's going to manage to take out a grand grizzly, but there's no use worrying about that now as it has gotten too late to do anything more. So Usato just decides he'll deal with it tomorrow and covers himself so he can safely get some sleep. The next morning, he heads out and begins strategizing for the takedown of the grizzly bear, and the first thing on the agenda is to find out where the thing lives so he can plan out an ambush on it. He begins making his way through the forest and marking out his path so he doesn't get lost when he comes across some bear claw markings on a tree nearby, so he starts worrying that the bear might be nearby right now. However, as he draws his knife in preparation for a fight, all he sees is the head of a little bunny looking at him. The bunny appears to be hurt on its back foot, and even though he is still in a survival situation, Usato decides to be nice and heal the protein so it can live another day. He then gets back to his hunt for the grizzly, but now he has the protein following him around. He tries to tell it to leave him alone, but the bunny keeps following him around until he tells it to stop unless it knows where to find a grand grizzly. To his surprise, the bunny knew exactly where to find them and proceeds to lead Usato to the exact location of the grizzly bears who are currently sleeping. For now, he decides it would be best to just observe rather than going straight for the stealth kill achievement, so he heads back to camp. On day 3 of his forest trial, he is now forced to drink untreated river water, which I'm sure won't have any lasting effects. While he was collecting some, that same bunny comes up to him again, wanting to spend time together, so Usato agrees as long as it doesn't do anything rash while they are watching the bears again. There were no significant changes to the behavior patterns of the bears, and watching them act normal, Usato is starting to find them to be really cute. It also helps that he has this cute bunny around to accompany him, so he's having a bit of fun now. It's day 4 and Usato is no longer having any fun. He just spent all morning shitting his guts out thanks to that untreated river water, and healing magic has no effect on his current bowl blasting syndrome, but he has no other water source, so at this rate he's going to be done in by water. While writhing in pain, the bunny comes over to check on him, and Usato is happy he gets to see his bunny friend before he dies of water poisoning. But the bunny is more than just a cute companion. It actually has valuable information about the area and leads Usato to a pool of clean water in the forest. It may not be perfect, but it's definitely a whole lot better than river water. Just then, the bunny starts acting really weird and climbs up into a tree to escape for some reason. Usato doesn't know what is wrong, but he assumes it can't be anything good, so he gets into the tree with the bunny. It must be sensing that a predator is approaching, but what kind of monster could be making it react so strongly while it did seem to care while they were watching the grizzly bears? He gets his answer soon after as he sees this giant snake just cruising through the forest while looking for something to kill. This wasn't in the forest guidebook, but even he can tell that he must never go near that thing if he hopes to be able to survive this forest. As the snake passes, he breathes a sigh of relief and goes back to his normal routine. 4 days have passed since he encountered that giant snake in the forest, and he has finally started to get over the fear that it caused. He has kept on watching those grizzly bears and still finds them really cute, but the fact still remains that if he doesn't kill the grand grizzly, then Rose won't let him go home, so he is inevitably going to need to kill that bear sooner or later, so he decides that he will finally do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes and his bunny friend keeps pleading with him not to go right now, but Usato needs to do this no matter what. So far, the bunny hasn't failed Usato yet, so he agrees to stay back at least until the rain stops. As the rain settles down, Usato heads off to finish what he was thrown in here to do and walks toward the den of the grizzly bears. But as he gets there, he finds that something else already beat him to the punch and killed the grand grizzly. From the look of the bite marks on the body of the bear, it must have been that snake that did this to them. And what's worse is that the snake was clearly just itching to kill something, since it clearly didn't kill them for food or because a scary healer lady was forcing him to do it. The baby bear tries to get its parents to wake up, but they are dead. Usato hates losing, which is why he kept up with Rose's unreasonable training methods, but more than that, he hates the scene of the baby bear losing its parents like this, so he swears to avenge it, which is pretty ironic considering that he was coming here specifically to kill them before. Back in the kingdom, Inumaki and Kazuki go to visit Usato again and are told that he isn't here at the moment. He has been out training in the forest for the past 10 days so far, but Kazuki thinks that is a bit too long to just be training and starts probing for the details of Usato's training regimen, but the guys don't want to give any details without Rose's permission, so they feign ignorance. Kazuki is still really worried about Usato, but Inumaki doesn't seem all that bothered, since from what she knows about Usato, he'll be fine. Meanwhile, Usato is preparing for war out in the forest, and after making sure he is ready, he asks the bunny to show him the way to the giant snake. Understandably, the bunny is hesitant to go anywhere near the snake, but Usato assures it that it won't have to stay there. All it has to do is lead him there so he can fight it. The bunny agrees, and eventually Usato comes across the den of the giant snake and finds the baby bear who just received his first defeat of his shonen career after trying to avenge his parents. It even has the scar for character development. Usato is scared at the sight of the snake, but he swore he would defeat it. That is what he's going to do. Besides, nothing is scarier than Rose, so this shouldn't be that bad. He runs forward and tries to stab the snake in the face, but nearly gets his face bitten off in the process. He manages to evade and stab the snake in the eye, successfully creating a blind spot for further attacks. However, the snake anticipated this and lured Usato into a trap for it to bite into its arm. But just as the snake thought it had won, found out that Usato has his second health bar. He managed to do some good damage to the snake, but now he's got the problem of being poisoned. Luckily, his bout of dysentery from earlier taught him a valuable lesson on how to deal with poison as a healer. If your insides have been affected, then just use healing magic to replace your insides. Having neutralized the effects of the poison, he runs forward to attack once more, and the baby bear is already on its power-up arc as it holds the snake in place, allowing Usato to get on top of it and bring it down with a skull-cracking punch. He then drags that spear through its brain until the snake finally stops moving and he believes the battle has been won. Usato collapses on the ground and gets approached by the bear, who has now reached to become friends with my former enemy shonen arc. It is grateful to Usato for avenging its parents, but Usato can't heal any of its injuries since completely replacing your insides takes a lot of magic power to do, so he can barely move anymore. Just then, the snake revealed that it also had a second health bar. And with Usato not being able to move, he curses Rose's name as he is about to be killed. But just before he dies, Rose comes crashing down from the sky and finishes off the snake by caving in its skull. Usato is confused why she is here, but Rose has been waiting outside the forest this entire time in case something bad happened. And that bunny that was following Usato around was actually her pet all along. She never actually expected him to win a fight against a grizzly. Even the best of the kingdom's knights wouldn't be able to handle one alone, so she just wanted him to gain experience by fighting a strong monster. But then this demon snake showed up and ruined it. It was a modified monster made by the demon army during their last invasion. Sigilise failed to finish it off, so it somehow ended up here, and she had to say that she is really impressed by how well Usato did against it. In regards to his training, he passed with flying colors, so she carries him out of the forest and back to that clifftop. She is proud of how much he has grown, and tells him that he has the right to stand beside her on the battlefield. He has everything she is looking for: a strong body, high pain tolerance, and a strong will to go on. Though he still lacks battle experience, they need to make it in time with the training because the demon army will be making their move soon. This was the end of episode 3. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to not miss the next part.